Folks, we are back again. The second edition of Unfiltered. And let me tell you something before I start. Minion, look, I have 3 shows running online, and let me let you understand right now that the bottom line of all of them is nation building. Whatever it is nation building. So let me just give a small advice to people who don't give a hoot about nation building. People who are not obsessed with building this nation. Don't worry yourself tuning into any of my shows. Because and then you go and write some, what do I call it, some free SHS commentary, it holds no water. But let me put that aside. Let me tell you, I'm so excited with my guest today, man, because we are talking, and I want people who think critically, who elevate the normal discourse to something more intelligent and something that is beneficial to the nation as a whole. My guest on this Unfiltered episode is no other than my own son, Ivan Innocent. Ivan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dad. It's always refreshing to be back here. This time I'm back in a different format.
Yes. The first time I had you was the KSM show.
Yes.
And this is a different format, but at the end of the day,
it's the same.
Wait. Thank you for the.
But let me also commend you for taking upon yourself this enormous thing, because nation building, I keep telling people, is a concerted effort. Mm-hmm. It takes the collective might of us all, irrespective of who you are, young, the aged, whether sick or well, driver, whoever. It takes the aggregation of our collective mind to be able to build a nation. So where you are, I think you're doing a lot. I've been watching you. And keep it up.
I'm sure you've been watching me from your childhood.
Yes.
People are telling me that, hey, when I was a small boy.
Yes.
But we are still there.
And it's a privilege to sit here with you. Yes. And it's a source of inspiration as well, because some of us are learning from people like you, and you continue to inspire us, and I think we will continue to also carry the torch.
Please do. Yes. And it's very interesting you mentioned you're thanking me for inspiring you, because believe it or not, Ivan, I get my energy and inspiration from you people. People like you, my editor, you're all young guys.
Yes.
But your energy keeps me going.
Exactly.
Your energy is what makes me realize that the baton that I'm handing over is going to competent hands.
Exactly. Because I've been telling people that in a failed state, there are no heroes. If you step into a failed state, you can't say you are a hero. We've all failed radically. So it is incumbent upon us, or as an individual, whichever capacity you find yourself, we try to build a just society where everybody will be empowered. There are people who were born with no opportunities. These are individuals who are marginalized. The thing is, how do we empower these individuals? Because every single human being out there has one form of potential or the other in that person. But because of no opportunities, these people end up somewhere. So if we are able to build a just society that will be able to potentiate some of these individual potential within individuals, you don't know where you find a person in the step. So I think in building a just society, it takes a concerted effort. All of us, wherever you are, let's do the little that we can.
Amen.
Because I keep telling people, somebody is rich, fabulously rich. Your children have access to 4 square meals a day. Your next door neighbor cannot even get one. If you're a sensible person, you know definitely that you are not a hero. Yes.
Ivan, let me say this before we start.
Okay.
Part1 start you. Before we start, you're relatively a young guy. You, the types of my editor, Richard and everything, young guy.
Yes.
What, even at this age, gets you going, gets you so far? Because one of the comments that we received the first time we came on was like, hey, Charlie, where is he from? This guy is good. I mean, they were excited to see somebody from your age bracket who's so dynamic. Where do you get this from? Because normally at this age, they say, now this is the time to check out,
Yes, I think the inspiration stems from my observation for quite a long time. I told you the last time, my education journey has always been about science, medicine, hospital stuff. And when you get to that aspect of life, that is where you begin to appreciate life, the realities of life. You see men in their lowest form. You see people in deep troubles. You get to a point where there seems to be no other or any way out. You understand? At that point, you realize that systems and institutions that are supposed to offer comfort and some kind of assistance to these individuals, you don't find them. So some people, they are just there. Sometimes, if you are lucky, you may leave. If you are not lucky, you may not. Some people may come to the hospital. They can't even pay their bills. A whole lot. The system is structured at the top in such a way that it doesn't prioritize some of these things. Over the years, if you look at some of the things that we finance in this country, you realize that some outside the radar of common sense, but we continue to push some of these things. So coming from that background and having that hostile awakening to some of these things, I felt that there is the need for us to drive the conversation to that particular arena, that it is not everybody who is living a comfortable life. There are a significant majority of our individuals out there,
and that's
who are going through,
significant majority,
yes, who are going through a lot, and that there is the need for us to shift policy, drive and attention to these areas and with necessary interventions.
What were some of the lowest points you saw people in that triggered you to go on this tangent? Like, give me maybe just an example.
Yes, for instance, I was at the ward with this woman, some say around 35. She just gave birth, and I think she undergone what you call cesarean section, and there were post-surgical sepsis. She had infection, and it was highly complicated. So she came to the hospital, and we were taking care of her. It got to a point her condition became quite critical, and she needed oxygen. I walked through the entire facility. There was no single oxygen.
Wow.
Eventually, the woman died.
Oh.
If we had oxygen at the time, probably.
This is what we call the needless deaths, which are not avoidable.
Avoidable death. And there are litany of cases just like this that I can chronicle. And if you speak to people out there, they will tell you some of this reality. So I realized that people at the top, some don't even know about some of these things. Even if they know, they are living in their comfort zone. They don't even care. And that is our attitude. Once you see very often people very passionate getting into politics. Once they get and get what they want, they forget about the masses. You understand? I think life is supposed to be simple. Life is about making significant impact. It is not about the number of estates you own. It's not about the number of cars you own. It is about making significant impact on a human being. So that at the end of the day, you can be proud, sit back and say, oh, this guy, that lawyer, I made that person. For me, that is the biggest inspiration you can draw when you build individuals. Sometimes they say, oh, you build people, they will come, they will not even mind you later. You don't build people to and expect them to come and bow before you. No.
I agree with you.
Just build them. And if they don't come to you, one way or the other, they will impact on others. And so I think that is the kind of thing that we need to. So in the future, I'm even thinking of a certain initiative where, for instance, if you have access to capital, you can sponsor about 5 people to go to medical school. Then you tell them, I don't expect anything. When you finish, make sure within 10 years you sponsor somebody who is outside your family to also go same direction. So at the end of the day, in the space of about 20 years, you can imagine the number of people we can connect, people without opportunities and stuff. So I think that is all that life is about.
I agree with you. And there's something about our mentality, which is I want to plant the tree and I want the tree to grow so that I can enjoy the shade before I die.
Exactly.
And you plant the tree, die and go. Your children and your children's children will come and enjoy the shade, but we don't have that mentality.
No. And I think that thing has sunk deeper into our politics. If you look at the politics that we do, the governance architecture, you realize that every president, every minister, whoever that is in a higher position want to assemble around himself so-called loyalists. So these people virtually transform themselves into bootlickers, sycophants. They don't even care about anything good. So individual values are often sacrificed for some of these personal loyalties. And even if these loyalties have been invested in something productive that will have far-reaching positive impact on citizens, that is different thing. So very often there are nasty stuff being done out there. You see people who are supposed to be learned individuals with high level of exposure, but they will be defending some of these absurdities.
Something that I can never relate to.
Exactly. That is why we need to. We've taken the detour from our conscience. And
the guy has a soundbite. We are taking a detour from our conscience. Hey, Ivan, that's massive.
Yes.
I think I put that down. We are taking a detour from our conscience.
A sharp one. So values, moralities, those kind of, we don't give a damn about those things anymore. These things have been trashed.
Ivan, how do we bring them back? You know, there's this US expression that I like using a lot to say, the bus has left the station.
Yes.
Where they are caught.
Yes.
You know, these values, these ethics, this integrity should we just say that they are gone? How do we bring them back? Can we bring them back, and how?
Yeah, I think yesterday I had a conversation with an old man. We were having some conversation, and he asked me, and I told him to educate a fool, you must first unscript the person. You cannot start by educating a fool.
What do you mean by unscripting them?
Because for somebody to get to the point we can describe that person as a fool, it means he has consumed a lot of dirt into the brain. So you need to clean it up before you insert new stuff. Because if you leave the dirt there and try to build up, the dirt inside may corrupt whatever good thing you are. So
that's the problem we are facing.
Exactly.
That we are trying to educate people who are not thinking.
So the thing is that the last time I told you that if you look at the exposure people very often get to in this country, it's been like you wake up in the morning, you listen to the radio, NDC person sitting, MPP sitting person there. So they create confusion, a pool of confusion. So the listener is unable to distill which among these people is telling the truth. So the Ghanaian youth has grown out of this grand confusion. So making informed political choices and other stuff becomes something that is exactly. So when you cannot have access to information, then you claw back and resort to emotions, that family alliances, ethnocentric allegiances, this kind of stuff. So when those things comes in, at the end of the day, you know, the actual line of fine reasoning, common sense and logic, which are supposed to be the critical fiber, which should spell whatever political choices that we make, we deviate, we become emotional. So at this point, that is what we have become in this country, the young people. So very often there is certain nasty stuff going on at the hub of government. You, as a normal human being, you know, so this is wrong. But you see human beings defending it. They've taken a detour from reasoning, common sense and logic, and rather acting based on emotions. You understand? So I think what we need to do at this point in time, that is why I started by commending you for what you're doing, because we have to. I mentioned unscript. Unscript means we need to re-educate them by distilling those things. As we speak, the sense of nationalism, patriotism, and those kind of stuff is no longer with the Ghanaian. It is about getting to power and amass as much as we can. We have weak institutions. There are no punitive sanctions. You can easily get away with it. So we must begin to instill this sense of nationalism and patriotism in the average Ghanaian and let them get exposed to politics and say, hey, politics is nobody's business. It is our business. You cannot sit aloof and watch other people destroy their state, because that is our estate. See Ghana as an enterprise. You have a stake in it, I have a stake in it, just like our individual, just like a company. You have a share, I have a share. So if you sit aloof and watch few people destroy it, it is your future that is on the line. So we need to come together. You don't need to be part of government by holding a position, but you can do so by being critical, being very vocal, following what is going on, offer constructive ideas. What has to be done to shape this particular thing? If people in power wake up at the end, they realize that there is this unism among the folks down here, irrespective of where we stand across the political divide, and there is this pressure on power bearers. Trust me, they will sit up. But if I'm sitting up there and I realize that, oh, the people are fighting among themselves.
Let me pick your brains on this.
Okay.
What you're talking about has happened before.
Okay.
I mean, way back before you were born. I remember when I was back in then when we had secondary school, so it wasn't SHSO.
Okay.
There was a sense of patriotism. I remember when Kutu Champon came into power and he declared that Operation Feed Yourself, let's develop the Wenya irrigation project and grow our own rice. Students volunteered in our thousands.
Yes.
To go to Dawenya, say, you see irrigation.
Yes.
the joy, that patriotism was there.
Yes.
What happened? When did this act of patriotism, we started looking down on it, saying patriotism yedi? All of a sudden, everything has become something serious.
Yeah, that thing somebody has told me before. It's sad. I think it's the recent line of politicking in this country. We've gotten to a point where people think that, to become fabulously rich, I need to join the political bandwagon. Once I join, I can amass as much as wealth that I want, and there are no punitive sanctions.
So politics is an avenue
of amassing wealth. So now all the young people fancy getting into politics because once I get there, I'll make money. So the idea, the orientation about politics isn't about service to mankind. It is about positioning myself to become financially sustainable. So you see, you realize that allegiance that is supposed to be to the state, to the constitution, and to the flag, and to the people of this country wouldn't be there. The allegiance is amassing what? At the end of the day, if I engage in corrupt practices and it even becomes a scandal, I'll get a large number of folks out there who defend me. And within the media, it's a bit polarized, depending on where you stand across the political divide. You see reasonable men who are supposed to feed on conviction, defending absurdities and nonsense, or in the name of being aligned to a particular political ideology, that kind of friends, or these are my friends. So I think it is the lie of politics. So people sitting afar have realized that this guy was my mate. I was even better in class than the person. I decided to go to do medicine. I'm a surgeon at a hospital somewhere. But that guy, suddenly he is appointed as a DC, and for God knows where he got those money from. He owns chains of houses somewhere, which you as a surgeon can work for 1,000 years.
You can't
even afford it. So this thing kills mojo. It kills that drive and that sense of patriotism. So you realize that all the people who are into critical ventures like medicine, everybody is coming into politics because they know that is a sure bet. I think we need to restructure politics.
But how do we reverse this? Is this possible to reverse? And let me just bring up this mindset thing that His Excellency is bent on.
Yes.
What are his challenges? How possible? What does he need to do and become aware of to create that mindset? Because that mindset must change.
Yes, I think this kind of advocacy is doing it bit, and government must lead by the example. That is why I was talking to you about this recent attempt to scrap this whole fuel allowance. And for me, that is not even enough, because you see, we've come to the realization, or people have this idea that once you are in power, it's a privilege kind of something that you need to feed on. Exactly. So I think we must begin to disengage by taking away those incentives that make people think that politics is an avenue of wealth. So all the goodies very often we assemble at the top for people to feed on
should be scrapped.
Exactly, because you see, the last time I was telling somebody, this whole goodies allocated to one person is a colonial inheritance. Because back in the days, during when governors were being sent over to look over this country by the Queen of Britain, that kind of you see, this at that time the level of civilization was quite low. There was this tribal conflict here and there. So when a governor is being sent from the UK to Ghana, it was seen as a risk. What was a high value risk, because you can lose your life, malaria, everything. So coming to an uncharted territory, the Queen decided to compensate whoever willing to come with a lot of things. So salary big, you'll be given security.
So the perks were created because they saw that you were taking a risk.
Yes, so they'll give you garden boy, they'll give you allowance, whatever, just to incentivize you to come. But when we took over our own country, our own destiny, we did not allow those things. We didn't realize that those things were colonial inheritance, that there was the need for us to kick those things. We have them today. You go to a particular CEO, aside the fact salary, allowances, clothing, whatever, per diem, those kind of nonsense. You see, for instance, if a minister of state who at the end of the day enjoy fat salary is saying that I cannot buy fuel, the state has to buy me fuel. But a doctor or a nurse providing essential service elsewhere whose salary is nothing compared to can afford to buy fuel, does it make sense? It's highly unreasonable. You understand? So I think these are some of the things that the president can do to whip that sense of nationality. It's not just about talk. Sometimes you need to walk the talk. That is why I commended President Mahama with this initiative. The next line should be about this per diem thing. For me, it's absolute ridiculous.
And isn't it not strange? And we'll continue.
Okay.
That people were opposing this. The nerve, the audacity to come and say we are against this scrapping.
Yes, I think that is the dirty version of our politics. And these are folks who wrecked their state a few years ago. I'm referring, I've listened to a couple of people granting an interview criticizing the president for doing some of these things.
If the president wants to really show that he's committed on this fuel allowance and the cutting down of fuel and scrapping of it, I'm challenging them to close down the fuel depot at the castle. And that's at Jubilee. Because with that, then that means they are no longer going to take the fuel for free. Then again, how much is being spent on these fuel allowances? So that after scrapping, how much savings are we making? So clearly, if you ask me, I think there are more questions to be asked with this particular directive. I just see it as populist. It's just public gimmick and a clear case of PR and settings. That's what I would say.
And the fact is that if you go to Jubilee House, even the fuel station there, it's not working. It's not working. But you look at the value that this thing is going to generate, because I remember 2022 we spent over 300 million in some of these fuel allowances.
Yes.
The following year, 2023, it was around 600 million. This year, last year, the election year, estimated to be around 700 million. You understand? So this is allowances. So if the president is taking this thing away, for me, I think it's positive. And sometimes it's not just about the value in terms of monetary terms. It is about the symbolic gesture that comes with it. The symbolic
what
gesture.
It stands for? What it means?
It means that
the symbol.
Yes, the state is willing to sacrifice. So if you are asking citizens to sacrifice, it makes sense. You understand? At the end of the day, a minister will be able to give a holistic assessment of what the real state of the country is. Because he's buying fuel, I'm buying fuel. So if people are talking about fuel, you feel the heat, I feel the heat. So we can have a common ground in our analysis so far as the hardship or whatever the economic situation is. So for me, I think that's very, very important. But for those at the political fringes, throwing in those that is the kind of politics they are noted for. That negative politics in that kind of way. But you see, these kind of politics don't fly anymore, because I have told you that young people have started consuming information. They've become enlightened. They understand. It will surprise you. You go to Makwala and meet somebody selling at the market. Engage that person in politics. You'll be shocked what the kind of knowledge
they'll throw at you.
Exactly. So we are not in 2000 or 1990 where you assume the folks are gullible. Now people are reading. They understand.
I always say jokingly that I think the expression is that we are now woke. People are now woke. And the kind of politicking that we used to do is gone. They are outmoded now. Why are people still sticking to that? Are they not realizing, say, but you should not forget that some people are still living in the past. Definitely.
Yes, you see, these are analog elements living in a digital world. They think that we are still in 1990. But hey, you need to wake up. There is a rude awakening, especially the cancer of a government that we had in the past few years that brought some rude awakening to Ghanaians. Because if you look at the wreckage, the rate at which the state was sinking at the international space, our dignity, everything was going. So there was this rude awakening among Ghanaians. In a concerted effort, we all rose. No, come on. If we continue to engage in this NDC, MPP kind of politics, we will give these people, we will insulate them to continue the kind of nonsense that they are doing. They will continue to wreck their state. That is why you saw the massive outcome in the election that we had. It tells you that Ghanaians were really angry. They were much concerned about the level of degradation that the country was being exposed to. So that rude awakening is very active now. And people are watching the current government with bull's eye. Fortunately, Mahama still has goodwill on his side, and he's still walking the line. I think he's walking the fine line, because ever since he took over, if you look at some of the policies and the promises that he made, he's been able to so far walk through. You understand? So that keeps him in line. That is why you don't very often hear a lot of criticisms coming from, because the thing is that nobody is an anti-state kind of agent. or we are not whipping anti-government sentiment. The thing is that do the right thing. But we are not crazy to come and sit here and say the government has done the right thing and then we are criticizing the government. It can be done. If we do the right thing, we will. Because my passion, my motivation is that we wake up a day, we create a just society where the average ordinary Ghanaian will have access to this whole national thing, the opportunities. You don't need to know somebody. You don't need to go through anybody. I have friends who went to the United States of America. They didn't know anybody. They applied for the army and they were recruited based on merit.
On merit.
Back here, it's not the same. You understand? For instance, in recent time, you've seen a couple of attacks on some of these young officers, police officers, military officers. Most of them paid bribe before they got in. But this is a very risky venture. Why would somebody pay a bribe to become a police officer when the person will go and sit in front of a bank? When an armed robber is coming, he's the first target. These people deserve what do you call some kind of bonus for even signing to be in the military, because once you do some of these things, you sign your death warrant. Because if an armed robber is coming to a bank, if I'm standing there as a bystander, I don't pose, there is no risk. But the police officer, whether you are aware or not, you are the first point of attack. You understand? That itself is a risk. So why can't we create a system where people passionately walk into some of these things because they want to? But now the system is like that.
There's a protocol list.
Exactly. Those who are not willing. In recent time, we've enlisted a lot of bandits, criminals, societal misfits. In the name of partisan politics, we've enlisted these criminals into these sensitive state institutions. Because
they were our foot soldiers when we were campaigning. And now that I'm in power, I have to satisfy my foot soldiers.
They don't go through any psyche evaluation, nothing. Can you imagine how dangerous it is to arm a fool with a gun? He's not only dangerous to himself, but the entire society. That is why in recent time you hear this one has shot this one, this guy one has killed it, because we have armed a lot of fools with guns and power, running around town with this national security tag, fooling all over the space.
Can you even imagine somebody comes and says, "Hey, maybe a national security"? You shouldn't even be exposing yourself. So that's
it's funny.
It tells you the level of intelligence, how low it has sunk.
And the one thing that is missing from our intelligent organization is wisdom and intelligence itself.
It's missing from the intelligence organization.
Because there is nothing intelligence about some of these things. From recruitment, if you've been following agencies like the CIA, the FSB, Russia, and other, the way they do their recruitment, the kind of their operations, the way they do it. You hardly will find somebody that this person is a CIA person. Even I was telling somebody the last time, even the movies we watch, where in a crowd you see that the most handsome person, well-dressed person is the CIA guy. In reality, that is directly opposite. Because if you are walking among people, there is something they call nondescript identity. You present yourself in such a way that if there is an emergency and people are asked to define or to describe whoever, they won't get anything to describe you. So that is directly opposite of what you watch in the movies. That is what intelligence organizations are supposed to be. But here people...
we have to recruit those who are base, who supported us, whether they're intelligent or not. So, I mean, great. So this whole idea of mindset, re-engaging Ghanaians to start rethinking. And we have talked about a few things like this scrapping of fuel things. Is that the starting point?
Yes. For me, I think that is the starting point, because, like I told you, when it comes to this advocacy, it has been in play for quite a long time, even before the elections. So Ghanaians are consuming, but we've gotten to a point. Hey, the government that is in power, what are you also doing to synchronize with what we've been committed to? So when some of these things are coming up, then it gives people that kind of comfort that the government is willing to let go few goodies, that kind of stuff. But for me, that is not enough. We need to do more, because you see, we need to...
What are some of the things you would suggest? Well, full allowances have been scrapped.
For instance, I talked about per diem. If somebody is a minister of state, at the end of the day, you are paid because you are a minister of state. You are not paid to sleep. You are paid to work. So if you are traveling, why should that person be paid
for traveling?
For traveling?
Because I guess they're saying that the travel is not part of the work.
Oh, come on. It's supposed to be part of the work. You understand that? And you see, it's not even about the amount we pay. It is about how this thing is being abused. For instance, there is no regulatory mechanism regarding some of these things. So somebody who is supposed to travel to London for a day conference, the person can decide to stay too, and comfortable to go with a wife. I know the state is paying for the person and the wife. So we need a proper regulation, even if we are going to continue. But you see, the very mistake we do is that, oh, if you go to UK, if you go to America, they do some of these things. But Ghana is not America. The economic circumstances of our country should dictate our policy options and what is feasible and what is not feasible. You understand? We cannot always be mirroring things happening around. We cannot compare our economy to America. So if America decides to pay people per diem, it doesn't mean that we should. You look at the state of the economy. But because people who very often enjoy some of these things are the power up, they don't. You see, when I take it away, I'm going to lose. But I think President Mahama has just 4 years. That the only thing he can leave behind is a legacy that will transcend beyond generation. I'm urging him to take a bold step, and some of these things, scrap it once and for all. Even if even if he's not going to scrap it, there should be a strict regulatory mechanism that will be revolving around these things, so that people don't abuse it. Because these monies can serve a significant number of jobless young people out there. You understand? There are a lot of people who wake up a day and their life is full of frustration because there's absolutely nothing for them. You understand? We can use this money to create opportunities, incentive. There are those we can support. And it can do a lot of stuff. But the people who have it all are the very people we are packing up. At the end of the day, they are also abusing this whole thing. So it makes it look like if you are in power, hallelujah. You understand? But power cannot be. You're supposed to be in servitude. Governance is supposed to be about managing the welfare of the people out there, the gullible folks. So at the end of the day, if you're engaging, we are talking about how many people have been elevated from poverty. How many opportunities have we created? It is not about how many houses a politician has been able to acquire, how many properties you've been able to, that kind of stuff. I think that narrative we need to shift, and that shift must be radical, and we need somebody at the top to lead this radical change, because that is the only way that will drive this sense of nationalism.
What do you see will be the problems of the person at the top? Okay. Because obviously, trust me, right now the MPP have put their face that we are against it, you are against this.
Yes.
You know, you'll be surprised how many people are also part of the NDC who may be against it but can't speak because of the way the politics is. So what is the challenge for Mahama, knowing that even from within?
Yes. I think, you see, if you're president, I think you must stick to your conviction if that conviction is positive. You know what you're doing. Like, you have full grasp. Unfortunately for Mahama, he's been president before, and he has had the opportunity of coming back, and he's the most experienced person to take over the reins as president, because going back, sitting, learning from your mistake and coming back. So there is no single decision that he cannot take. You understand? Everybody in his government was appointed by him. Yes, you have this internal opposition, that kind of resistance, but at the end of the day, it is you, the president, people will judge. You understand? So if you believe in what you're doing, you have proper conviction, you know, I'm doing this for the sake of good. It's not about being accepted or somebody being in agreement. No, it is about the ultimate outcome of what you decide to do. Is it going to have an impact on the life of the people? Are people going to accept it? Because you see, this whole sense of governance, the mistake people do is that when we set up government, people think that, oh, the government is in place because we have military, we have police, we have no. Governance, democratic institutions are never protected by the security. It is protected by the trust and confidence citizens repose in that establishment. When that trust and confidence is gone, you are dead. You are dead. So you must always do things to sustain the trust and confidence. You understand? And doing some of these things are some of the ways you can sustain the trust. Because citizens are very reasonable people. Let me take you back to Seoul. I've forgotten the year. But there was a time South Korea went for a loan from IMF. The state actors were doing everything right to put the money into good use, but things were not going right. The citizen realized that, oh, the government is really committed to our cause, really committed to our welfare. He's having challenges paying this debt. So we as citizens, we are going to help. So if you go to Seoul, people line up in the street of South Korea, brought their money, gold, diamond, everything to government offices. They gave it to government, go and pay the debt. That is the biggest form of the offense, a citizen parting the government at the back in the form of some of these things. You understand?
Do you see something like that ever happening in Ghana?
It can if we change the drive. It can if we change the narrative. it can, if we take away this mentality of politics being an avenue where people go to have fun, have money, and that kind of stuff. If there is a proper regulation, if there is a proper kind of strict leadership at the top, trust me, we can, because citizens are watching. If they begin to see some of these selfless acts of sacrifice.
I agree with you 100%. You know, I remember saying on some occasion that even, I think when they, what we would now call the doomsday level came and with all this, I said, listen, if people are reacting in a certain way, it's because they don't trust that you use the money
to do the right thing.
Yes. But if you know and it's transparent, this is how much we collected, this is exactly how we have used it. People are intelligent enough to know that, our money is going to a good cause.
Exactly. And that is the problem. You see, some of the folks in power don't even think that they are accountable to people. Some think, I'm here because the president is my friend and he appointed me. Because I've gone to school abroad. Because no, come on. You are not there because you are the finest brain in town. It is an opportunity to come and serve, you understand? So very often you see this aura of arrogance, this inflated pride, this fragile ego among people. It's a minister, you can't even criticize him. A couple of times I've seen ministers sitting on platforms insulting people here and there.
You remember the famous case of who said Pierre?
I don't know. Yes, sir. What is it, Pierre? You don't put me. Who is your government? What do you mean by Pierre? What do you mean by Pierre? I'm a president. When you sit somewhere and behave like you are talking to your co-equal, am I your co-equal?
The minister was such an infantry that somebody said, that's what you're talking about.
Yes, you're supposed to be in servitude, working at the behest of the collective good. I'm not talking about the collective wishes, but working at the behest of collective good. That is what you're working at. So we must always be in sync with people. So the last time I was telling you that if we come to the realization and people in power realize that the relationship that might exist between power and the people should be intellectual kinship and mutual respect, some of these things will go away. They will do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, if you don't perform, you will not, a gun will not be put on your head to even resign. Conviction alone will ask you, hey Charlie, I've messed up, I need to resign.
Let me go.
In recent time, we've seen a couple of such resignation coming from UK, when many of their prime minister resigned for some flimsy reasons because they broke the trust. We can say the same here. People mess up, and at the end of the day, we have a cahoot of media people defending all this nasty stuff. Some don't even understand what they are defending, but in the name of something has been given to them, they do all this nasty stuff. So I think we need to restructure this whole understanding of governance from the top to down. Now people are very receptive, very assertive, and they are watching. Don't think that you are dealing with gullible folks. Even if the government makes a sign, the people can interpret. You understand? So I think if we accept this reality and we all play our role as we are supposed to, by not trying to cut corners, cheat people, if we collect taxes, we are very sure that the government will use taxes to do these things. If I'm paying, I would not be.
And that key thing you mentioned is this trust.
Exactly.
You know, for people to have trust and confidence. And I said it sometime that even the appreciation of our currency was because the market was getting signals that changes happened.
Exactly.
There are signals that the market reads, that people read.
We read. Yes, it's very, very important. And unfortunately for us, there is something that people are not paying attention to. If you look at the sub-region, you realize that a lot of the countries are swapping democracy for coup d'etat. It's because people have lost trust.
They have lost
in
trust.
Democratic institutions.
That's the key thing. They have lost the trust.
Exactly. Because the whole constitutional democratic architecture has turned into some kind of a Ponzi scheme that has been exploited by some unwitty folks who think they are smart. You understand? So it's like a Ponzi scheme that is being run. So looking at how it is impacting negatively and people get away with crimes, people steal, amass wealth to themselves, people massage constitution, then we should go for the other option. Sadly for us in Ghana, few years ago, people were even preaching coup d'etat because people got fed up with this democratic thing. So I think time has come for us to infuse trust, confidence, and that kind of way in the democratic institutions.
We should make the democracy work the way it should.
It should.
You're talking about the regulatory framework and things.
Yes, proper regulations.
Yes.
Punitive sanctions must be applied when necessary. We cannot be shielding people. We cannot just be saying, for instance, aftermath this previous administration, anything to get them account for their crime, people will be saying political witch hunting, this kind of. But people must genuinely account for their crimes. You understand? And for me, that is one aspect John Mahama government will have to man up and quicken things. Because you see, majority of Ghanaians went to the polls to vote because of the nasty stuff that were happening. We were convinced that some folks were stealing our money.
Yeah. And the promise that we were going to recover all that has been stolen.
And we'll launch an operation Recover All the Loot to investigate, prosecute, and recover the proceeds of corruption. To investigate, prosecute, and recover the proceeds of corruption, no person found culpable will be spared. But let me say that the sword of accountability will cut both ways, against both past and the present government.
That energized a lot of people to vote.
Yeah.
So time has come for us to walk that particular talk. We cannot just be swayed or our mojo be swayed because there is a backlash. That backlash will come.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that if you know that this person has done this and there is enough evidence to prosecute that particular person, we need to, in order to infuse trust.
Some have said that the vim, they're not feeling the vim. Is it because the law is procedural and it has to take their time, or what? Because this loot recovery thing, people have said they wanted to feel that it is happening, and they seem to think it's so slow. They will say, but there's what do you call that thing? Scholarship secretariat.
Yes.
What is happening with that? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I think one thing, the criminal justice system doesn't always align with public sentiment and public rage.
Okay.
Because when I'm expressing a rage and some kind of sentiment, it's quick. Hey, go after them. But the criminal justice system takes time. You cannot just bundle people, take them to court, and then prosecute them. It takes time to gather evidence, not just any evidence, but substantial, those that can stand the test.
Yeah, beyond reasonable
at the court. So it takes time. But you see, there should be a move to sustain that particular trust in people that this thing we are on course. But if there is no flow of information, people are not hearing anything. I keep telling people that, you see, one thing people don't realize that in governance, you don't create a vacuum. Once you create a vacuum, people will fill it for you.
In governance, you don't create a vacuum.
Once you create a vacuum,
I want it in practical terms. What vacuum do you sense has been created?
So for instance, people are amping for prosecution. Something has to be done. People have stolen our money.
Yeah.
And then there is flat zero information regarding prosecution. Nothing is going on. Then people...
There's a vacuum there now.
There is a vacuum there. People, okay, we said it. MPP and DC are the same. They are you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Because you created a vacuum. Because if you create a vacuum, people will fill it with cynicism, propaganda, and you cannot control it. The last time I met one of the big politicians, he was telling me, he doesn't own a Facebook page. Somebody has created a page in his name and is exploiting people. I'm saying, you can't blame the person who has created, because at this age and time, you're supposed to have a Facebook page. For them to identify a fake one, there must be an original. You have created a vacuum. It's the reason why the person has created the fake one, exploiting people. So you need to create the original one. People will know this is your original page. So when they compare to the fake one, they will know that this is fake. But because you have created a vacuum by not having a Facebook page.
You send some kind of vacuum because in the absence of people seeing and feeling what they want, there's no information filtering in to explain why.
Exactly. And that thing can even extend it to the larger government space.
Yeah.
For instance, in 2016, the way John Mahama government was bastardized, was insulted, was demonized, and the impression was created as if the gentleman didn't do anything.
Yeah, incompetent was his first name, no middle.
When he exited power, then people got to know, wow, he did this, he did that.
Yeah.
By the time there was a government machinery, there were communications.
Yeah, but they created a vacuum.
Exactly. You see, one thing about us is that when black man hangs on to power, he begins to lose his senses. Because in modern politics, the most essential to is communication. But very often people take power, the communication is left to everybody run to take power. Then they don't communicate. You understand? But
not to cut you off, but they don't really respect communication as a really useful, intelligent tool. They just leave it to foot soldiers and everybody to blab and
it's true. It's true. But, because in America, one of the most essential things in politics is communication.
Yes.
And I dove my heart for Donald Trump. He doesn't need even a second person to speak for him. Every blessed day, the gentleman is behind the microphone, explaining things himself, telling people every blessed day at the White House, doing this. There must be a free flow of information. You understand? That is what you need to invest much in information. Yeah. Let it flow.
Yeah.
But there are several times you even want clarity. Who to call is a problem.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving anybody clarity because the person thinks that he has risen to a position of being a god, a new god. How dare you call me? You know, I'm You are digging your own grave. You understand that? I think there must be that kind of synergy, that kind of alliance, just to distill the information, let people know what is going on. If you sit on it, you are sitting on your own thumb.
Let me go back because you made a very, very important point about vacuum. And what happens when there's a vacuum? So we're talking about this whole agenda for the loot thing. You think a vacuum has been created, and why?
I think some think it's not important. You wake up a day, you go to your office. You think that we're sitting here talking, that's okay. But the most significant part of this conversation is getting it out there.
Yeah.
So it's not about what we say here. So we can do all the stuff here. If it doesn't get out, it's useless. It's useless. I know the three of us are the very people who've gotten to know this. So you understand? So it's not about the president sitting at the office doing this, doing that. It is about getting
the information out there
for people to know. And how do you disseminate this information with some kind of how that people can have access to wherever, whenever, and wherever people are, they can have access to. That is the problem. And for me, you see, people don't do this thing deliberately. Unconsciously, they create this vacuum because everybody is busy. They think, "Oh, I'm doing this," and people don't assign importance to communication.
It's very interesting the point you made about after the 8 years when Muhammad was out of power. Then people say, "Hey, so this man that said was incompetent.
Yes,
he was the one that did these things.
Yes,
which we should have known what he was doing." But at
the time there were gamut of communicators, people all over, but no proper information was flowing. And unfortunately, we don't even have a media that will also go and independently give traction to some of these things unless you give them something. So I think if you study political, I think we don't take political communication very serious in this country. It's an area we need to invest. And for me, I think that politics 90% is about communication. It's not about what you do.
Their mind is that once you have the foot soldiers and serial callers calling in, we are communicating.
No. You need to position. You see, everybody has his appealing base. You understand? There are kind of staff and the kind of people to communicate those stuff. You understand that? So I think if you don't strategize and see some of these things, because we've been swept into an era where people are no longer mere consumers anymore. We are all prosumers. We are producing and consuming at the same time. You understand that? So the person consuming the information at the same time have the capacity to go on social media and create news for other person to consume. You understand? So that is how powerful people have become. So I think there must be this deliberate effort just to ensure we engage, decentralize this whole information kind of distance so that people will get to know what the government is doing. Same thing happened to MPP when they were in power. You understand? Communication gap closed. People were busy, arrogance here and there, flirting here and there. When people get power, then they identify who they can flirt with now. Everybody can go to sleep. But like I said, you do these things, you dig your own grave. Because at the end of the day, if
you
information
do it at your own peril.
Oh yes. If
Ivan, you see how my director is telling me there. So I think let's part 2 for maybe tomorrow or something. But let's delve into that.
It's very, very important. We have to, because I think, and I'll be coming over. I'll be coming over regularly because I think it's a platform.
But right now, hold on, folks, and this is what we call unfiltered. And say it and say it free. This is unfiltered, and I'm glad I had Ivan here, and I'm asking to